Take a wild guess. What's the total length of China's rural road network? 1 million kilometer, 2 million, or 3 million? Okay, it was a trick question. They're all wrong. It's actually 4.5 million kilometers, enough to circle the Earth 115 times. And about half of that, or 2.5 million kilometers, was built or renovated in the past 10 years. That's 700 kilometers a day. And these are not mud roads, but paved ones reaching all of the smallest villages in China. As a result, now all towns, townships, and small villages where conditions allow have access to asphalt and cement roads, as well as bus and postal services. This is truly a feat, considering how inaccessible the far-flung, poverty-stricken and mountainous regions used to be. In a white paper released in late November, China revealed how far it has come in rural road construction 10 years after President Xi Jinping set out the task. Why is China so committed to paving roads in its rural areas? How did China pull off such a mammoth project, both in terms of time span and geographical scale? Can its experience be replicated? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. I'm pleased to be joined from Beijing by Liu Chengfang, Boya Chair Professor and Associate Dean of the School of Advanced Agricultural Studies at Peking University. I'm also joined here in the studio by Rong Ying, Senior Research Fellow at the China Institute of International Studies, and Einar, Tangen, Senior Fellow at the Taihe Institute. The warmest welcome to all of you. I want to start with what really impressed me during the release of the white paper, which is the replacement of zip lines with bridges and new roads in several provinces. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Zip lines, or otherwise known as flying foxes, are usually used in China in remote mountainous areas in 7 provinces and autonomous regions. They are Yunnan, Sichuan, Guizhou, Shanxi, Gansu, Qinghai, and Xinjiang, so southwestern, northwestern China. A total of over 300 projects to replace them with bridges and roads have been completed, benefiting 1 million people across nearly 1,000 villages. Gentlemen, I want to ask this question. Have you tried a zip line? And basically with that question, I wanted to know, from your personal experience, what did China's rural roads look like in the past?
I was brought up somewhere in we call the southeast, where we certainly don't need zip lines as a means of transportation, but the village or the area where I was brought up, we have many rivers and lakes. So building a road means building bridge. We build more bridges and then road. So in other words, it can be technologically very challenging, but more importantly, I think financially a big problem. So the past decades, the development of rural roads in China certainly very much impressed myself, and I think the progress and achievements that have been made in terms of rural development.
Let me go to our female guest first, because she, I understand, comes from Guizhou, one of the more remote areas in southwestern China, and she actually comes from an ethnic minority group. Professor Liu, tell us about how roads were like, or transportation were like for you when you were growing up.
Okay, Ms. Liu, thank you very much for having me. Yes, I'm an ethnic Dong minority from rural Guizhou province. So when I was young, although we did not need to use the zip line, but like Professor Rong just mentioned, we did have the boats and to cross the river, right? So, and back in those days, I think the roads are basically muddy during rainy days, and during sunshine days, lots of dust. But nowadays, as you mentioned at the very beginning, they have been well paved, and all weather it's accessible. So I myself is a beneficiary of the tremendous progress that China has made over the past decades. And I know from CCTV and other sources that about those zip lines, the students cross the river to go to school. That was really shocking to me. And I think by replacing those zip lines with the bridges and the all-weather roads, I think not only open new opportunities to make it easier for the local people, especially the children, to go to school, and the local people much more easier to go to the hospitals
Right.
and to seek out the public services. And in the meantime, and also open the door for more job opportunities and exchange with
Right.
other people. And
Right.
also on the other side, people from outside those mountainous villages, they got opportunities to visit those remote villages to experience the beautiful scenery and the delicious food and many other things.
Yeah.
So what you call the culture, the tourism and the folk culture. Yeah.
Right. Indeed, this is opening up a lot of opportunities. But I know for those people who have never, watching us, who have never been to China, who don't know what China looks like now and how China looked like before, you have been here for a long time. Help us put it into perspective. Exactly how much work was there to build roads in the countryside for China? How backward it was and how much work it needed to be done?
I'll give you an example. The first time I came to China, I went to Qinghai, which is one of the poorest areas.
In northwest China.
Northwest China, and I didn't see any zip lines. I have been on a zip line. I don't want to do it again. I'm afraid I fall off. But we were going along the road, and I saw a man standing in front of a house. I mean, literally from here to here. His door was here, and the road was there. And I said, I want to stop, because this guy was smiling. So I went and talked to him. I said, well, why are you smiling? He said, this is great. I said, isn't this road a little close to your house? I mean, your
Too
door.
close?
You know what he said? He said, this road is wonderful. He said, with this road, my children go to school. They walk that way. With this road, the things that I grow now can be taken on a truck to market. I get more money for what I had. I used to have to go with an ox cart a day or 2 days, depending on which market I went to. But that means a day over, a day back, a day at the market, 3 days lost. Or if it was the further one where you could get better prices, 5 days lost. He said, now, and he said, you know, I used to eat meat once a year. All right, now I have meat every week.
Yeah.
So his doorway was still just 2 blankets, one on the outside, one on the inside. He didn't have glass pane windows. But it changed my perspective on things because I realized that China was going through a transition. And these roads were absolutely crucial.
Yeah. Still, to help people, to help put an idea into people's mind when they hear the numbers, sometimes numbers are very abstract. As I said, over the past 10 years, 2.5 million kilometers of roads were built or renovated, and that's 3 times the total length of Germany's entire road network. And these roads were built in 800 towns and townships and 70,000 villages. Okay, it sounds very easy to say it in a second, but Mr. Rong, help us understand the scale of it.
Yeah, indeed. I think numbers can tell a lot, but you have to put in the context where China is a huge country, and it being areas that are being covered are varied. And we're talking about rivers and lakes, and we're talking about mountainous area. We're also talking about desert and others. And remember, these villages, these townships are scared. I mean, separated in very difficult terrain, difficult areas. It means, as I said, first and foremost, money if you want to build a road, and of course, it also means technology. But more importantly, it means commitment of the government at various levels, because investing money, technology, and resources in building the rural areas, it means a lot. When you, a government, have to fight or have to balance different priorities. So I think these numbers, these figures tells a lot. But the most important thing, I think, it tells that the central government and the government at their levels, the commitment to the rural development.
Well, you talk about the central government's commitment. President Xi Jinping said most recently during the G20 summit in Peru, in Lima, he said, "I have worked from village to county, city, provincial and central levels. Poverty alleviation has always been a priority and a major task I'm determined to deliver." We all understand that China declared victory against absolute poverty in 2021, lifting 800 million people out of absolute poverty. I want to go to Professor Liu online. Why is China so committed to building such an impressive and massive network of roads in the rural areas? Sometimes people would say, well, the village is only 50 people. Is it worth the investment?
Yeah, I think this is well worth the investment. As we mentioned, the access to high quality public services and the infrastructure. I think this is very important, not only for those scattered households in those scattered villages themselves, but also it means a lot for the integrated development of the entire society and the economy. So China used to be suffering from a huge rural-urban divide in terms of the access to public infrastructure and the services. I think by building those roads and bridges and other transportation systems, that not only helps to improve the well-being of the local people, it also helps to contribute to the economic growth and ultimately to the yes.
In what concrete terms has building roads helped in poverty alleviation? And going forward, after these people have been lifted out of absolute poverty, do these roads still matter a lot?
Yeah, definitely it still matters a lot, and it will continue to matter. According to studies by myself as well as by my colleagues inside China and outside of China, a well-developed transportation system that helps to improve the job opportunity. So, for example, like those huge investment projects of road construction projects and the bridge projects, they can provide job opportunities for local people who can participate in the construction work. That's in the short run direct benefits, right? And after the road is built, and they also need maintenance and management, right? And through this participatory approach, the local people, they can also get involved. And we look beyond the better road, as we just mentioned, provide better access to the public services and also employment. And in the meantime, it also contributed to the two-way flow of goods and the services and even talents, right? So it's a win-win.
So they're not just roads.
The rural areas and the urban.
Yeah, they're not just roads. They actually are, propellant for local economic development, Einar.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at this not as just the last 10 years. I mean, the whole point about the Chinese government is it's always put the people first. So even I remember 15 years ago, there was a lot of debates about which areas could be saved. I mean, in the sense of where can we put these public, because it is expensive to run a road, because with the road you run electricity, you sewer, water, all the things that are necessary for an upgraded life. So what they did is they went through and studied and they said, okay, why would a village of 50 people get a road? And the answer was quite simple, because it was in a scenic area where there was possibility of tourism. So this is all part of massive amounts of planning. You do not build 2.5 million kilometers in 10 years just by doing it, throwing the money out there and seeing what happens. It's very, very complex. But in addition to that, China has become amazing at road construction. I mean, in front of my...
Well, we are the world's builder. We built the Great Wall a couple of thousand years ago.
Well, it's not only that, but I mean, in America, I was chairman of a city commission that looked at these issues in terms of infrastructure, how long they last, when they need to be replaced and things like that. And I'd make a report each year to the local government that said, you're about 100 years behind in terms of, the use of these things. You have to replace them, but you don't have the money to do it. But the main issue is that in the city I was in, if they tore up a street, it would be weeks, if not months. All right. In front of my house 2 days ago, they tore up here in Beijing. They tore up the street.
That's the zip line. That's the.
They tore up the street and completely replaced it, all in a day and a half.
Well, I was talking about 700 kilometers a day.
Well, they have machinery in addition to working with people. It's amazing.
Talking about funding, it's a big thing, right? 10 years, a national project. From the white paper, it says that accumulative investment of 4.3 trillion yuan, that's 600 billion US dollars, were made in fixed asset investment in rural roads and 150 billion US dollars in maintenance, and 80% of that came from the government. So, Mr. Rong, what is special about the Chinese investment model, and why do they put so much money, and where does so much money come from?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot we can talk about in terms of financing. I think this is the most important, actually, I think the most important thing for the sustainability of that effort. Not only for China, as also I think we're talking about the changing dynamic or the changing sort of demography in rural areas where the maintenance can be even more important than construction of road.
It's actually twice as expensive to maintain a road.
Yeah, that's right. But having said that, I think at the very beginning, the huge amount of investment certainly comes from the government at various levels. As China develops, I think now it's able to have the capacity to do that, apart from the political commitment. But more importantly, I think the innovation or the creative way that helps mobilize the different sources, not only from the government sources, which is very important, but also from the society level. And also, I think by working together with other investors, where you can it depends on either you can collect the tolls, but the most important thing, the integrated approach, where as you plan to build a road, one would, I think, look at the different features, where if this area, this township has resources for tourism, or whether it has resources, or if because of the road, with the road that built, it can also have access to build a kind of industrial park. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of a rural road construction plus model, the financial model, I think helps the government to do that. Last but not least, I think the system of China also helps a lot. I think on these poverty elevation issues and rural development issues, the central government play a very important role in bringing the developed areas in coastal areas to help the remote areas for development.
Yeah. So transfer payment is what they're known as.
So, for example, this summer I traveled to Guizhou and others. I was told that those from Jiangsu, Shanghai, and others coastal areas go to the park. They are free. Yeah, they don't have to pay. Well, I say why? Yeah. Because these provinces, they help them to build the road. So they want to express their appreciation for that. So this kind of system, I think, helps in a holistic way, in a way that I think make it possible for China.
Yeah, Professor Liu, online, what is the special advantages that the Chinese political system has in funding this kind of long-term, expensive national projects, and also the leadership of the CPC, and the certainty in its political landscape?
Yeah, that's a good question. As you mentioned, the building road and the maintenance of a road is very expensive. So it takes time, efforts, and financial resources. I think it's advantage of our political system that China can mobilize huge financial resources, right, through the central government and also government at various local government at various levels. So I think that's one of our advantages. Another advantage is that this top level planning and the designing and the consistent over time. So in this way, we set a goal over there, and governments at all levels and also society, as Professor Rong mentioned, and as well as other stakeholders, they all work together towards the same goal, and mobilizing all the resources and the talents together. Yeah, I think that's our comparative advantage.
Yeah,
I have a different perspective on this.
Please,
I think I'm an investment.
I was going to turn to you. I know.
I'm an investment banker, a lawyer. I do deals. It doesn't matter how much I invest. The question is, what do I get out of it?
Yeah.
Right. So when you have unconnected people, they're underutilized resources, and the areas that they're in are underutilized as well. Mm-hmm. So this is an investment in the future. Infrastructure isn't something it's not a pity pot.
But why not make better use of private capital? Because as I said, 80% come from the government. Okay. Could they have leveraged more private funding?
Well, they did in the past. When China started out, they used these build, own, and turnover models. But that requires that they, there's a toll on the road. Well, if I'm very poor, I'm not going to use the road if I don't have money. All right, the point of the road is there. But that was fine when you were talking about in the East, all right, developed East. They were putting in all of these industrial zones.
So these are
factories.
Purely public good,
this is
charity.
No, it's not. No? I disagree. Charity is when you expect no return. All right, investment.
Mr. Rong, do you agree with
No, investment is when you are connecting people who are now going to be productive for society, and it's a social good and a economic
investment
good.
In the future. In terms, Mr. Rong, do you agree that China is making? It looks like right now they're over-investing in the infrastructure, especially when they're cash strapped. I'm saying it looks like, but what is how do the Chinese leadership calculate the cost and the benefit?
Yeah, I think as far as the Chinese government is concerned, I see certainly it has an advantage of planning long ahead, strategic planning, which makes it possible to take a long-term and investment to invest in the future. But if we talk about the rural roads construction and maintenance, I think it is kind of combination where, the advantages of Chinese system have been given fully utilized. While in the meantime, I think the economy or the economic aspect have to come into play. That's why I think the integrated approach where the different conditions of the rural area should be fully explored. And that's why I think these experience can be a kind of reference or inspiration for even in the future and for other countries, for other developing countries.
This is a new thing for China as well. So we are doing and we're trying to experiment. Another thing, and China is trying to innovate as well as it goes along in terms of financing, in terms of coordination and governance. For instance, in the white paper, there is the road chief governance system, which is quite interesting. Basically, every section of road is assigned a road chief with 3 sub-road chiefs. So the county level administrative head with the countyship and village level will be personally responsible for the quality, for the maintenance of the roads. Professor Liu, let me go to you again online. How do you think of the kind of innovative ideas China has come up with in order to make things work for its specific circumstances?
Yeah, so the road chief system, I think that's a sort of an innovation, but it's not new. Before the road chief, we have like a river chief. We also have forest chief. I think the main idea of the road chief system is to coordinate, as you mentioned, because it involves different departments or different ministries. So we need a system or a coordination system just to make sure that, because all the relevant parties or the relevant departments, they all needed to get involved. So I think the road chief system helps to coordinate different departments or different ministries to make sure everyone pulls the weight to help improve the road system. So I think that's an innovation sort of a mechanism to coordinate different sites.
It's such a huge project, such a huge experiment that we can spend hours talking about. But I have two last questions remaining, one for Einar and one for Professor Rong. What are the challenges going forward in maintaining such an extensive network, and compared with what's the lesson for the world? What's the takeaway for the developed country, for the other countries who are looking at infrastructure? Is there something to be taken away? Einar?
Yeah, two instances. One, Chanche port in Peru. That is the port. Now they have to connect it up to a lot of the additional markets. And that will be something where China says, look at how we have done it, and we think you can be successful.
What about for the United States, who's been trying to build back better?
No. The build back better things has been it's just non-existent. You have bridges that are collapsing. And it's not just because boats run into them, it's because they're just so old. The infrastructure in the United States has deteriorated. Anybody who goes there, they say the roads are terrible, everything is things. It's because they haven't been willing to invest in the structure of your society. Roads do lead to wealth. And unfortunately, if you don't maintain them, the wealth goes away. But
okay,
one last point.
Yeah.
3 days ago, I was talking to a PhD student from India. And he was very interested in exactly this topic. And I said, you should be studying it very carefully, because this is the key to your future. It's not that you copy China, but learn from it.
Mr. Rong.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that China, it has to be more adaptive to the changing reality, changing dynamic in the rural area. That's where I think the revitalization of rural area, the strategy becoming more and more important.
All right. Well, we have to leave it there, time being very, very limited. Many thanks to my guests, Rong Ying, Senior Research Fellow at China Institute of International Studies, Einar Tangen, Senior Fellow at Taihe Institute, and Liu Chengfang from Peking University. Thank you so much for joining us for this very important discussion. With that, we come to the end of this special edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and X using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. On behalf of the whole team, thank you for watching. You've got The Point.